Welcome to the Media Bubble Podcast. I'm Karol, and he's Fredrik, and let's get this show on the road.
Yay, it's time for another bubbly episode.
And this bubbly occasion is, of course, Halloween.
Or close to it, the week of Halloween. I'm not exactly sure when is... Halloween is the last day of October, correct?
Exactly, I think it's the 31st of October.
Yeah, then it will be on a Tuesday this year.
Jeez, that sucks. I always imagine like, oh, Halloween, that's probably like a weekend, right? Like, people don't celebrate anything important in the middle of the week.
No, well, it is on Tuesday, but I guess the celebrations will be in the week before or the week of Halloween. I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, because I can't imagine parents spending their time with their kids trick-or-treating on a Tuesday. Just seems weird.
I can't imagine it at all. I didn't celebrate Halloween when I was younger.
You didn't? You never did? Why?
No, in Sweden we don't celebrate Halloween. Some kind of do because we have seen a lot of American media, but the true thing that we celebrated is Allhelgonas natt.
Yeah, so it's like the day after. It's pretty similar for us in Poland as well. It's Zaduszki, so which basically just it means you just visit your local cemetery and light a candle for people who've been forgotten by their families.
Yeah, that's kind of how it is in here as well. Plus some food celebrations like duck and goose.
That is the first time I'm hearing of this, honestly. Duck and goose.
Yeah, that's one of the that's kind of the food we that is traditionally eaten on Allhelgonas.
But well, I used to celebrate Halloween. Not in a big, not in like a super big way like they do in the United States. But each year I try to do something special. It's just that with recent years it's kind of fizzled out for me.
Yeah, I guess so in some way. But in today's episode we're going to discuss a movie that we have both seen, and I guess it's a bit of a sequel to the channel's undeniable most popular episode. We're talking about Scooby-Doo again.
But this time they're visiting Zombie Island.
Yeah, which if you follow anything about Scooby-Doo and Scooby-Doo fandom and things like that, you will know that Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island is like the most celebrated Scooby-Doo movie. Like the comparison of how people talk about Zombie Island compared to pretty much any other Scooby-Doo film is like miles apart. Like people really hail Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island as the best Scooby-Doo film.
And I guess it's also an apt description. It's one of the better ones for sure.
Yeah, and to give a bit information on Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, it released on September 22nd, 1998, and for once upon a time it was during one of Scooby-Doo's rare hiatus, because Scooby-Doo barely has any hiatus, to be honest. But the last show apparently was a pup named Scooby-Doo, which ended in like the early 90s, and this was released in the later 90s. And Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island was supposed to be a one-off thing, so the creative team had a little bit more freedom than what they usually have, because this was just supposed to be a one-off thing, but it proved, I guess, popular enough to revitalize the Scooby-Doo franchise, and I guess 3 kind of direct sequels that were made by the same team follow this film, which was Scooby-Doo and the Witch Ghost, Scooby-Doo and the Alien Invaders, and Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase.
I think all of these titles, I remember Cyber Chase for some reason most like vividly.
Me too, but that's because I actually had Cyber Chase as a DVD when I was a
But I
kid.
also think they just did a lot of reruns of it on Cartoon Network. That's my memory, at least.
Not my Cartoon Network. If there was something that I saw reruns of, it was actually Alien Invaders, if I'm counting networks. The other three, no.
But let's get into it in this special one of a kind supposed to be movie.
Yeah, how do you want to talk about this movie? Do you want to talk about how we usually talk when we go through the story at the same time, or?
We could. Although I fear we might go off for too long if we try.
Yeah, I guess we can go through the story a bit quicker in that case. I can recap if you want to.
At least if you're so far into this review slash let's talk about this movie, give it a watch. It's spooky season. It's perfectly fits the theme. It's a good movie.
Yeah, it's fun. It's the classic Scooby-Doo humor with the kind of... I guess Scooby-Doo has kind of always been a bit of horror elements because there is ghost he's chasing, but it has never really felt that scary because there's a lot of humor in Scooby-Doo.
Because it has potential to be scary, just as is shown in Zombie Island. But there's always the thought that, well, it's always some kind of a dude in a costume or lady in a costume that's orchestrating.
Well, not in this case.
Exactly.
And that's another reason why this one is so popular. Oh, right, I was supposed to recap the story. Yes. So the story is that after a while, the Scooby gang has broken up again. They don't see each other, just like me and Karol.
Yikes! I just saw you last week, man. What is that supposed to mean?
That's something that I said in our original Scooby-Doo episode that I just kind of, I just brought that out again, I guess. But the Scooby-Doo gang has gone different way. Fred and Daphne has their own TV show where they are searching for real life ghosts, and it has become really popular, and they are getting a season 2. Let's see, Velma owns a bookstore.
It's a mystery bookstore.
Yeah, the bookstore. Let's see, it has a lot of mystery books, I guess. And Shaggy and Scooby are, what the heck is it called in English? They are
customs.
Yeah, they are custom, which weirdly enough, when I actually saw them performing their work, you kind of just like, well, they kind of are perfect for this.
Exactly. Like, it's a shame that they get fired at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, because they were supposed to find illegal food, and it's Shaggy and Scooby, and of course they are going to find the food because that's what they are good at.
Yeah, but they're giving kind of the vibe that they're bouncing between jobs because they're not in the mystery gang anymore.
Yeah, and that's kind of what... So Fred gives Daphne a surprise, and they are getting the gang back together to solve other mysteries for Daphne's show.
Yes, so it wasn't Ghost to Coast, it was Daphne's attempt to find a real spooky, like real ghosts, mystery monsters.
Yeah, and so the show begins. Can I just say that I actually... This plot kind of reminds me of the 2002 movie, at least the beginning of it. Where
oh my god, I thought the same thing!
Where it's kind of like they have broken up and they have grown up a bit, I guess, and gone their own path a little bit, but I think it's handled in a much better way than the live action movie. Or how did you feel?
I feel exactly the same way, since comparing this to the live action, at least the first one when they broke up, they didn't really evolve. They just kind of split up. Everybody was mad, and then they got back together. But here's I mean, let's just split up and try different things with our lives.
Yeah, this is kind of also this is weirdly enough more realistic it's just time, and time changes you, and
Yeah, it's
you
believable.
want to go on in different places sometimes.
And I think it's also handled way more nicely since Daphne's job directly ties into the story. This is the reason for why they're going.
I almost feel like Daphne is the main character in this movie.
I wouldn't say so. I never got that vibe.
Well, it's a Scooby-Doo movie, and they all have their equal parts, but Daphne is more actually driven in the story than what she usually is. Like, she is really the one that is going after the mystery and trying to find a real ghost.
Well, I mean, her job is at stake, so it makes sense, which is nice because the movie also shows that. But the gang decide that Louisiana will be the next kind of spooky, mysterious location for them to investigate. And as they go through their ghost monster chasing antics, they do not manage to find a real life living ghost.
No, it's the same stick where a music video plays, and Scooby and Shaggy manage to solve the cases where it's always a guy in a mask.
Exactly, and this is not exactly what Daphne is looking for with her story. So, hanging about and trying to find information, the gang stumbles upon Lena. Is her name? What's her name again?
I probably have to check that out because I don't remember names that good. Let's see here. Simon, no, Lena. Yeah, it's Lena.
Yeah. So they meet a local woman named Lena that is pretty convinced that her employer's house is definitely haunted, and she invites the gang to the plantation. What was it? It was a pepper plantation in the Louisiana swamp.
Yeah, but it's pepper.
Yeah, a pepper plantation.
Yeah, pepper plantation.
So they go there. They travel through the swamps of New Orleans, and can I just say, this movie, it's only an hour long, but it doesn't feel like okay, it's not an hour long. It's 77 minutes long. But none of that time feels wasted or rushed. It just feels like a longer episode of Scooby-Doo with much nicer and much more detailed backgrounds and shots and interesting angles.
Yeah, and shadows.
And shadows.
That's something that I really thought about this movie, is that how they actually animate the shadows in a way makes the feeling of this film so more, I guess, creepy, but as
Yes,
I said, it's
I agree.
Scooby-Doo, so you never really feel creeped out, but it definitely helps the feeling.
Yeah, because it feels atmospheric, and you can perfectly see it when we see the guys in the montage, like getting monsters and such. Because even like New Orleans, this whole place is such a nice backdrop for the story. It's just like the rails, the old townhouses, the water, the reflections. It's so pretty.
I will agree to a certain extent about the pacing of this film, because to me, I felt like the beginning and the setup was really good and felt like a nice flow to it. The conclusion I felt, to me, felt almost a little bit rushed, but anyway, it was still good.
So, with Lena leading the gang through the swamps with her, what was his name? Let me see. I have the name list right here. Jahzzar. So they have their ferryman that travels possible visitors to the Moonscar Island, where Simone Lenore, with an accentious French accent, lives, and there's a rumor going on that that a lot of people that go there are not coming back. And our team is just like, yes, content. This is cool. We can monetize that. Uh,
Did you see this in Swedish or English?
I saw before I turned it to Swedish. I've listened to it in before I turned it to English. I listened to it in Swedish.
Yeah, because I had this thing on DVD, and at first I wanted to watch this in English because this is an English-speaking podcast. But when I tried to put English on, it was like switch to the other side of the disc, and I'm like,
that's not happening.
Well, I guess I'm saying this in Swedish now.
So what you saw wasn't it wasn't Zombie Island. It was Zombie.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, I have watched the Scooby-Doo content in Swedish my whole life, so it doesn't really affect me that much.
Well, I mean, Scooby-Doo is pretty popular here in Sweden. I wouldn't it's way more popular than in Poland, for example. But the gang is arriving at the Moonscar Island, and they meet Bo.
Well, through their way to the mansion, they meet a few characters. Like, there's one. Let's see. There's one Snakebud Scruggs who they meet on the way on the ferry. Who I guess he's an angry fisherman. He tries to catch catfish, and he has a angry pig as a pet. And we also meet the house's
gardener.
Yeah, gardener. Which name is let me see
Bo.
here. Yeah, Bo.
Yeah. So as the team is arriving at the place, it's came up that this full island is inhabited by multitude of cats, and Scooby, being a dog, cannot control himself around the cats. So chaos ensues. Everybody's in disarray. We see a lot more of the island, and we finally meet the owner of the pepper plantation, which is Simone Lenoir. And while being mad about the dog, she is more than welcoming to the gang, and allows them to film the mysterious happenings and document the spookiness that takes place after the sun sets.
Yeah, kind of weird in a way. A bunch of strangers just, hey, can we see the ghost in your house? Yes, sure. You can stay as long as you want.
Yeah, I mean, in context of the movie, it makes sense, and I feel like the gang was too busy chasing a story to see potential kidnapping coming their way.
Yeah, so through this movie, because this is an pepper plantation, Scooby and Shaggy go always try to eat some pepper, and some other mysterious things start to happen, like Velma suddenly floating in the air and ghost writing on the
There's literal ghost writing on the wall to letting him to go out.
Yeah, which later Velma destroys the wall and finds that there's a writing on an old ghost or an old pirate ship which was helped when building the house.
Exactly. And can we go into the spoiler territory?
Yeah, sure.
Because I wanted to talk about something.
Let's go into spoiler category.
So the whole deal of this movie is that Simone and Lena, she's not Swedish. So Lena and Simone and Jahzzar periodically kidnap victims onto the island to sacrifice them and to keep up their immortality, right?
Yeah, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Exactly. And I wanted to point out, once you know this fact, you can kind of see how why Simone is so welcoming to the house. and how she's playing with the pendant as they're talking about staying over for the night. Like, she's already... There's cogs going on in her head how she will sacrifice the gang.
Yeah, I guess there's also kind of that twist of that because of how the film works and because of the title, you're just expecting that the ghost and the mystery or the zombies that comes into this island, but the true monsters are cat people, I guess.
Exactly. And it's a nice twist. It's like twist villains isn't really something that usually happens in Scooby-Doo. And it's even less likely that the monsters are aiming to help the gang escape certain death.
Yeah, but when they were revealed that they were cat monsters, I was kind of like, when was this even hinted at in the film that they were cat monsters?
Okay, so maybe cat monsters. I mean, cats on the island.
Yeah, I guess that's the biggest hint, that there's a lot of cats.
Like, it didn't come out of nowhere, but it's
it
still
kind of did
cats.
in some way.
Yeah, okay, I guess.
But yeah, when Shaggy and Scooby leaves the house because the owner's getting really tired of Scooby-Doo because he's a dog. Shaggy and Scooby gets some food from the house and drives near the lake, I guess. And when that lake on that night starts to act very weirdly, there comes winds and weird green lightning kind of things that goes into the water, and actual real zombies starts to get out.
Yeah, and it's been already hinted at that these monsters, they're real, since we already had like the writing on the wall or the mirror with the ghost inside, and now we have like reanimated, like restitched zombies going after Scooby and Shaggy.
Yeah, that was always the kind of commercial point of this film, was it's actual real monsters. which they are, because after a while Fred, Velma and Daphne goes looking for Shaggy and Scooby, and they also find the gardener.
Yeah. So
Bo.
throughout the entire movie, Bo has been kind of made this red herring, since it's been pointed that he doesn't really like the gang since they destroyed his work. He's always missing in some other place, or like mysteriously disappears when like ghost shit is happening.
Yeah, he's the one that is supposed to be easily thought of that he could be the villain, and because he's the most easy to, or because he is the easy choice, it's of course not him.
Exactly. So as Scooby and Shaggy disappear into the woods and the gang is looking for them, more monsters start to come out, and the rest of the gang finally realize that, hey, as they're trying to like tear the face off a guy, trying to unmask him, the head pops off, and that's a zombie man. There's not much more to say.
One thing that I do like about the zombies is that at the first you're kind of seeing these pirates design, and you're thinking that there's something about this old pirate mystery, and the crew, and there's a large part of the zombies are pirates, and then you're just kind of seeing some hints of this, how the story will go in the future, because suddenly there's zombies wearing army dresses and
like burlesque dresses, yeah, and like Hawaiian stuff.
Yeah, so vacation clothes, and you're kind of just like, that's a bit curious.
Yeah, because you could easily make the argument that, hey, the guys making this movie kind of messed up. They just kind of threw everything like there was. But because of the earlier hint from Jahzzar that people go disappearing in these parts, it kind of still like it kind of still makes the mystery interesting. It gives you a hint towards what to look after.
Yeah, and I guess what happens next is that we're getting actual an explanation of what happens, because Lena and Simone actually reveal themselves to be cat monsters who suck the life energy out of people to stay alive, because they have been alive for like 200 years or something, and they were part of a group that was on the island, and there came pirates and destroyed pretty much everything and killed everyone except for those two. And so they, through their god, created a curse on the pirates and apparently also on themselves.
Exactly, and as they are feeding on the monsters that kill their people, if they want to continue living, they have to feed off new victims. And with time, as this was an island and it became inaccessible, they had to recruit Jahzzar, who also wanted eternal life. And since then, the three of them been preying on anyone close or anyone interested when as the harvest moon is approaching. I think that was the exact time they need to do the ritual.
Yeah, there was also the reason why there's some plantation is because through the years came some I guess some people that just made a plantation.
Yeah, it was just settlers and they took it over.
Yeah, and then they were killed.
Well, I mean, makes sense since I don't feel like the girls would be able to build like a such a big mansion by themselves.
When I think about it, in Scooby-Doo media, in episodes, like, it's very child friendly. Like, no one gets really hurt. No one. If there's a kidnapping, they are kind of always just okay. But in this movie, it really is like there's these zombies that you're seeing. They have all been tricked by this woman, and they have died.
Yeah, I mean, I've mentioned this before, but we had a whole scene when Shaggy and Scooby fell into like the hole, one of the holes, and it just was this animated shot of this zombie skeleton getting like regaining his rotten flesh, and like that was scary as hell for that time, I guess. I mean, it wasn't
for
like
Scooby-Doo standards, I guess also.
exactly, and let's not forget in the flashback we had people eaten by crocodiles.
Yeah, there was. It wasn't shown, but yeah, they were eaten by crocodiles.
So yeah, act like death in a Scooby movie is not. That was surprising.
Yeah, this movie is a kind of a mix of more mature storytelling and still having that old classic Scooby-Doo formula in it, because it is made a bit darker than that's kind of what I also hinted at before when I said that the team had more creative freedom. So this movie is a bit darker, but at the same time it still continues with the actual Scooby-Doo franchise. Like it isn't. It's still very clearly Scooby-Doo.
But I think, as we said before, this show was always a little bit dark and creepy, and this movie, Zombie Island, the sequels, and let's say more recent releases like Mystery Incorporated, kind of show that the darker you made it, like that this show really thrives with a bit more mature themes. And making it more child friendly is not necessarily always a more creative idea. Or let's say a more safe idea, or a cool idea, a better idea.
I think one sad thing is that Mystery Incorporated, I think that or is probably counted as old Scooby-Doo media now. I think there's been three other shows since that show.
I'm
Because
old.
there was like another Scooby-Doo show, and then there was another Scooby-Doo show where they met a lot of celebrities, and I guess I'm not exactly sure how Velma counts.
I don't think it should count. I think it should be its own thing we can dislike.
Well, we can discount it, I guess.
But nevertheless, going back to the plot, as the main villains reveal themselves and reveal their backstories, they counted on making voodoo dolls of all of the main gang plus Bo, but not Scooby and Shaggy, since they discounted their ability to do anything. Shaggy and Scooby are running around the island trying to escape. They stumble upon Jahzzar that tries to kill them. Again, violence. They run back into the cavern, and with their combined power of shenanigans and luck and zombies storming the place, they fumble the dolls out of the fire. They give them their friends a chance to untie their knots on the voodoo dolls, and the gang traps the Catwoman just long enough for the time window to close for their sacrifice.
Yeah, so instead it's the cat people that fades away, I guess.
Exactly, they crumble into dust, and shortly afterwards, so do the zombies.
And the zombies finally gets peace.
I mean, they were not all of them.
Well, the pirates were horrible people, but I guess the rest of them were.
Yeah, the rest of them were just casualties. But
So there's some people that I thought of that actually too. It's kind of like, oh, and the zombies are getting peace. Am I supposed to feel good for the pirates because they were still shits?
I think that's why it was the military men that thanked the gang for their involvement, right?
Yeah, I think it was.
Because they were the most obvious victims that we knew most about.
So yeah, the Scooby Gang saw. I'm not exactly sure about solving the case, but the case ended, I guess.
Yeah, I mean the case ended, but the problem was because this whole deal was about Daphne getting footage for her program, but during the final third of the movie, the gang lost the camera with all of the footage, so they have nothing to show for all of their adventures.
Yeah, the only thing that they had was the detective Bo, I guess was willing to do an interview with Daphne.
Oh yeah, he was a cop all this time, which explained why he was so weird and gone and missing all of the times.
Yeah, because he was trying to find evidence. Because there had been a lot of mysterious disappearance on the island.
Yeah, just like Jackass says, like, people go into the island, but they never come back.
And as I said before, kind of just how I feel about this movie is that about the pacing is that I feel like the beginning and the setup is really good. It's a nice pace, but when actually the zombie starts to appear, I feel like some of the classic Scooby-Doo tropes disappears a bit because at the end of the day, Velma doesn't solve the mystery. The mystery kind of just comes to them, and the villains explain the mystery to them. So Velma doesn't really solve the case, and there's no real trap that is set up by Fred and the gang. Scooby and Shaggy kind of just runs into the cave, and then they start to create chaos, and they manage to.
They got lucky. The only reason for why the gang is still alive at this point is because of luck, and I think it actually kind of fits with the monsters being real, and the only reason for why the gang is safe is because of sheer luck. Because when real monsters came to play, tricks and schemes and investigation doesn't always work.
Yeah, I guess that's one way to look at it. To me, I don't know. To me, it felt a little bit rust, but at the same time, it doesn't really ruin the experience. Like it's still fun and
Yeah, but I can see what you mean. It kind of misses few key points from the formula, but I don't miss it.
I just feel like the setup was doing what was going on for such a long time, and then when the conclusion finally comes, then we start to move really quickly.
Yeah, I feel like I think the pacing maybe since this movie is a 77-minute romp, right? It's not even 1.5 hour.
No,
So I guess they kind of had to pick up the pace, and I feel like the pace got picked up. It was after Ghost writing on the wall, and then they run again, and after the writing and Velma levitates, Shaggy and Scooby kind of have like want to eat again, and then they get delegated to the van, and that's when the real zombies come out.
yeah, I don't really feel like there's a lot of time spending on actually solving the mystery either.
Because I mean, there were clips. They researched the mirror, and they kind of and Velma kind of did bring up the whole building is made out of materials from Moonscar's ship.
I guess that's kind of how the film also wants to trick you, because throughout the film you're kind of thinking that this has something to do with the pirates, that it's the pirate ghost or zombies or something like that, and it's very set up with the clues to be the zombies. So when that twist comes, maybe this is kind of smart when I think about it.
It works both ways, since the wood being from the pirate's ship, it still works since the settlers that came after the pirates, they used the wood to build the building and they were killed. But it still points to the story. It like when we were revealed that oh there were pirates in the ship and they killed everyone, it wasn't a surprise, right?
No. How I feel about this film in a whole is that it's a very good Scooby-Doo movies. It's one of the better Scooby-Doo movies. I never actually seen this film as being as spectacular as I feel like the internet have decided it to be. Like I still feel like it's a very good Scooby-Doo movie and one of the better ones, but the way people sometimes praise this, I don't entirely see it. I see it as a really good Scooby-Doo movie and one of the better ones. So don't get me wrong, because I really like this film.
I have to agree with you, since I have to think at every single point you said, since yeah it's a good movie, but it's not a spectacular thing. It's a departure from the formula, but I think a lot of people's perception of this movie being so great is because maybe they watched this movie when they were little and they were very into Scooby-Doo at the moment of this movie's release.
Well, as we said, if you compare this film to a lot of, I guess, a lot of newer Scooby-Doo movies, because if I remember correctly, like there's one straight to DVD Scooby-Doo movie per year, maybe even more than that, and a lot of them are very lightly tone nowadays, and so I guess this film kind of strikes out a bit more, because this actually goes a bit darker. It actually goes in the direction that you maybe want Scooby-Doo to go in.
Yeah. I know we're talking for quite a bit here, but I just wanted to mention on topic of straight to DVD movies. So, a new tidbit in 2019 there was a Scooby-Doo movie called Return to Zombie Island.
Yeah, I know about that film.
And seeing the difference in tone between these two movies is staggering.
That movie is so weird because it's trying to capitalize on the popularity of Zombie Island, but at the same time, it's like screwing over what the original was at the same time, because I think in that movie, I haven't seen it, but what I've heard is like they are taking kind of the mystery from the first film and kind of are like, well, it was all along a guy in a mask.
Are you actually serious? They invalidate the movie.
Yeah, if I remember what I have heard about that film, that's kind of what they're doing. They're taking something that is really popular in the Scooby-Doo franchise, and they are taking their new franchise approach on it. Like it's such a weird thing to me because it's like they're taking this beloved thing and kind of ruining it.
I think that's pretty much the summary of the prequels, sequels, and Hollywood milking of every property that you hold dear.
Well, some Scooby-Doo, there's a lot of Scooby-Doo kind of stuff that I love, but if you're being honest about Scooby-Doo, it's a franchise that is very, very well known for, I guess, being milked, because the Scooby-Doo is a franchise that for some reason it just works in a very many ways, and even whatever Scooby-Doo managed to do, it always somehow makes money or makes it works. Like there's been Lego Scooby-Doo, it has been Puppet Scooby-Doo, there's been 4 live action Scooby-Doo, and it's so, in some ways it kind of works because Scooby-Doo has always kind of been a franchise that's very campy, if you can say it like that.
I think Scooby-Doo is like the I'm lacking word for it. The campiest of children's TV shows. Like if you see any character like clothes or mannerism in Scooby-Doo, that's camp, baby. It's definition of it.
And the weird thing is that whatever the Scooby-Doo franchise decides to do, they can still make money of it because Scooby-Doo, for some weird reason, just works in everything, I guess.
They found the formula. Before we close off, I just wanted to just one little tidbit that I really want to talk about. It's not gonna be long. I just wanted to like compliment the location of the movie. I loved the swamps, the little towns, and I've noticed how much food was present in the movie. It's either like fried shrimp or gumbo or like toast or like pecan pie. A lot of it very like southern, which kind of like yeah, this feels like a like doesn't really feel so relevant or it's so much shown in the media nowadays. It kind of feels fresh for an old movie.
I don't know why, but I saw a fact where someone was writing that it seems like Fred Jones is eating a lot more in this movie than he has ever done in his previous appearances.
Duh, because there's a movie, there's several scenes where they have to eat food.
Yeah, but at the same time, who really checks out to how much Fred eats? like why is that a thought that someone has had
That's
and write a fact about
it's
it?
sickos. It's sickos, I tell you. There are people who check.
So, well, if my most favorite part actually from this film is probably the animation of it. Like it still has that classic cartoony look, but it's still, but it gets like more mature shadows and spooky feeling. Like I probably would wish that every Scooby-Doo movie would have this animation.
Yeah, it drips with effort.
And in total, I would give this film maybe a 7 or an 8 out of 10. Like this really is one of the better Scooby-Doo movies, and it really delivers.
Yeah, I would give it maybe 7, maybe 8. I'm on the fence since I have to wait for a year until I can like show it to my niece. I'm gonna go with an 8 because I'm still planning to show it to her. So 8 Scooby snacks out of 10.
Yeah, I guess you can say that. And it was a really good Scooby-Doo movie, I guess. Should we end this episode, Carol?
Yeah, and as always, thank you all for listening in this spooky and scary season. And we hope you enjoyed it as much as we have. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, or follow us on socials like Twitter, YouTube, or Tumblr. And also big thanks to Jahzzar for our intro and outro comedy. See you again in the next episode, and have a wonderful day.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween!